Breaking news. Houthi rebels allegedly backed by Iran plan to hijack a ship. Israeli officials announced that the six-week war against Hamas had progressed to the next stage, as attention turned to the southern part of the besieged Gaza Strip. At the same time, Israeli paratroopers invaded northern Gaza, allegedly targeting the residences of high-ranking Hamas officials. If Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thought that senior Hamas figures were currently taking cover in or around Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, he would not say so. He warned the press that the leadership were dead men walking, and promised to confront them. The Al-Shifa hospital in northern Gaza, which has been the target of Israel's ground offensive for the last week, was evacuated on Saturday by approximately 2,500 displaced persons, including patients and staff, according to a UN agency. Israeli forces said early Sunday that they had attacked Hezbollah in Lebanon across the border in the north and Hamas in Gaza. The US and EU have designated Hamas as a terrorist organization. Meanwhile, on October 7, Hamas claimed to have lost contact with groups tasked with protecting hostages. To read more about the conflict between Israel and Hamas, click here. Please note that all times are in Israeli time. Houthi rebels hijack cargo ship, Israel says. On Sunday, Israel announced that a cargo ship had been hijacked in the Red Sea, putting at risk a vital global shipping route, by Houthi rebels in Yemen who are backed by Iran. The ship's crew did not include any Israelis. Quoted as saying, "This is another act of Iranian terrorism which expresses a leap forward in Iran's aggression against the citizens of the free world," British Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking out. Iran has remained silent. Rebels from Yemen's Houthi party seize cargo ship in Red Sea, according to Israel. Biden aide says hostage deal is getting closer. A senior U.S. aide has speculated that a deal for the release of hostages held by Hamas during its attack on Israel on October 7 might be the most promising one so far, necessitating a multi-day truce in the fighting in Gaza. See also, Biden aide says deal to free Hamas hostages is getting closer. According to UNRWA, 160,000 liters of fuel are required daily in Gaza. United Nations Relief and Works Agency spokesman Adnan Abu Hasna stated that in order for Gaza to maintain a reasonable level of humanitarian services, 160,000 liters of fuel are required daily. No Palestinian group, political or otherwise, will be able to get their hands on even a small amount of this fuel if we get it, he continued. Hundreds of UNRWA vehicles, water desalination plants, sewage treatment facilities, wells, and hospitals all rely on this fuel. Approximately 70,000 liters of fuel per day would be allowed entry by Israel, according to OCHA. Hundreds of cancer patients from Gaza will travel to Turkey for treatment. From Gaza, 351 cancer patients will go to Turkey to continue their treatment, according to the health ministry in Gaza, which is run by Hamas. After Israel's ground assault began, the Turkish-Palestinian Friendship Hospital, Gaza's sole oncology facility, was forced to close its doors, cutting off treatment to the patients. At the same time, in collaboration with the WHO and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the Palestine Red Crescent Society announced that it had evacuated 31 infants born prematurely from Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Rafah, a border city in Egypt, is home to an Emirati hospital where they will be transferred. Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei urges Israel's isolation once again. At least for a limited time, the Supreme Leader of Iran has urged Muslim nations to sever diplomatic relations with Israel. This is unacceptable, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei stated on Sunday, according to his Telegram account. Even though some Muslim states have supposedly condemned Israel at conventions while others have not. Muslim governments must cut off energy and goods supplies to this regime in order to cut off Israel's lifelines. During his speech, Khamenei toured drones and an improved version of the Fatah hypersonic missile on display at a military exhibition in Tehran. The hostage deal has made good progress for Qatar. Israeli and Hamas negotiators have made good progress toward a deal that would release hostages, according to Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani of Qatar. A deal can be sealed, according to Al Thani, who is also the foreign minister. The remaining obstacles are practical and logistical. He and Josep Borrell, the head of the EU's Foreign Affairs Department, were at a press conference together. Jerusalem claims to have raided the homes of high-ranking Hamas officials in Gaza. Israeli forces, including paratroopers, conducted operations in the northern Gazan areas of Sheikh Ajlan and Rimal, to identify and destroy Hamas infrastructure and assets, according to an operational update from the Defense Force. The soldiers found 35 tunnel shafts and a plethora of weapons, and terrorists were eliminated, according to the update. The homes of high-ranking Hamas officials are embedded in the Rimal area. The forces also found 7 rocket launchers, ammunition storage facilities, and a military base that belonged to the military intelligence unit of Hamas. It is not possible to independently confirm Israel's assertions. Israeli forces engage north and south enemy forces. According to the Israeli military, their air, sea, and land forces engaged in combat on 2 fronts early Sunday, destroying Hezbollah and Hamas infrastructure in Lebanon and Gaza, respectively. Towns in southern and northern Israel were alerted to an impending air raid, and open areas were hit by mortar shells launched from Lebanon. The Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah's Al-Manar TV said that the group attacked 2 Israeli sites. According to OCHA, approximately 2,500 individuals left Al-Shifa Hospital. Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza was evacuated on November 18 by around 2,500 IDPs, along with patients and staff, according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. The Israeli military had already ordered that, and according to OCHA, they have been operating inside the compound for 4 days running. After crossing into Gaza from Egypt on November 18, the UN agency reported that 123,000 liters of fuel had been delivered. Israel has stated that it would permit the entry of approximately 70,000 liters of fuel daily. However, this amount is significantly lower than the minimal necessities for critical humanitarian operations, as stated by OCHA. The World Health Organization has declared Al-Shifa Hospital a death zone, following a recent visit. According to a United Nations team that was granted permission to visit the largest hospital in Gaza, Al-Shifa, the conditions there are dire, with a mass grave near the entrance that may contain as many as 80 bodies. The World Health Organization-led team was granted 1 hour of access to the hospital by the Israeli military, according to a press release from the organization. There are still 291 patients at Al-Shifa, including 32 infants, in extremely critical condition, even though the team stated that the hospital was, essentially, no longer running. According to WHO, a large number of patients were dealing with injuries sustained during the war, such as amputations, burns, and spinal trauma. In the next stage of the war, Israel will go south. As the focus shifts from the ruins of Gaza City to the southern city of Khan Yunis, Israel announced the start of the next stage of its conflict with Hamas. During a press conference, Prime Minister Netanyahu refused to confirm or deny whether he believed that top Hamas leaders were hiding there. He promised to address the matter. All of the Hamas leaders are walking corpses. When asked about the shrinking space for Hamas to operate, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant stated as much during a news conference featuring the war cabinet. Whoever was on the city's western edge knows full well that they have already encountered the lethal force of the Israeli Defense Forces. That is becoming clear to those on the east tonight, and they will continue to do so over the coming days. Israeli propaganda has recently been dropped in Khan Yunis, the hometown of Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar, urging locals to evacuate to a humanitarian aid safe zone south of the Strip. Despite Hamas's best attempts to keep them from leaving the combat zone, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled to the safety zone since the war broke out.